The Cold Heart of Mr. Bigglesworth. Ebenezer Bigglesworth surveyed his domain. Chandeliers dripped like frozen honey from the vaulted ceilings of Bigglesworth Manor, each facet reflecting the firelight dancing in the hearth. He preferred the cold detachment of gaslight, but the architect had insisted on fireplaces, claiming they added a character. Character. As if bricks and mortar could possess such a thing. A knot of servants scurried past, their whispers muffled by the thick Persian rugs. He hated their furtive glances, their constant awareness of his presence. He wanted efficiency, not obsequiousness. Bigglesworth Manor was a well-oiled machine, designed to project an image of success and power, and these simpering fools were a glitch in the system. A high-pitched wail pierced the opulent silence. A second, equally shrill, joined it. Twins. He'd been informed of the event an hour ago, delivered with the same solemnity one might announce a stock market crash. Twins. A double dose of ear complication. He strode towards the sound, his polished shoes clicking on the marble floor. Dr. Grimshaw, his face flushed and sweaty, stood just outside the nursery door, wringing his hands. Mr. Bigglesworth, congratulations. 2 healthy girls. Healthy. As if health was the only metric that mattered. Bigglesworth peered into the room. 2 miniature, wrinkled faces, contorted in primal screams, stared back at him. Lily and Daisy, they were calling them. Lily. Daisy. Names fit for flower girls, not heirs to the Bigglesworth fortune. He felt nothing. No paternal instinct, no surge of affection. Just a cold, hard knot in his stomach. These creatures were a threat. A threat to his wealth, his power, his carefully constructed life. They will need provisions, a Dr. Grimshaw stammered. Nurses, governesses. Expenses, a Bigglesworth corrected, his voice like chipped ice. He turned away from the cribs, the sound of their cries grating on his nerves. He couldn't bear to look at them a moment longer. They were parasites, clinging to him, sucking the life out of his carefully cultivated world. He walked back to his study, the scent of expensive leather and aged mahogany a welcome relief. He poured himself a generous measure of brandy, the fiery liquid burning a path down his throat. He needed a plan. A solution. These inconveniences could not be allowed to disrupt the order of things. He looked out the window, across his vast estate, thinking of all the ways he could change his life. A dark ride into the savannah. Ebenezer Bigglesworth cursed under his breath as he wrestled with the cardboard box. It was a pathetic thing, really, a reproposed container that once held imported Italian tomatoes, now destined to be a cradle for, well, he refused to think of them as his daughters. Liabilities, that's what they were. Tiny, screaming liabilities. He lined the box with a threadbare baby blanket, its once bright colors faded and pilled. It was the best he could do. Sentimentality was a luxury he couldn't afford. The Land Rover rumbled along the dirt track, each bump sending a jolt of guilt through Ebenezer, quickly suppressed. The twins were mercifully silent, probably asleep, huddled together in their makeshift bed. The African night pressed in around them, thick with the smell of dust and unknown blossoms. Crickets chirped a relentless chorus, a soundtrack to his moral bankruptcy. He pulled up beneath a colossal baobab tree, its gnarled branches reaching like skeletal fingers towards the star-dusted sky. The air was cooler here, a welcome reprieve from the stifling heat of his mansion. He killed the engine. The sudden silence was deafening. Ebenezer carefully lifted the box from the back of the Land Rover. The twins stirred, one letting out a soft whimper. He ignored it. He placed the box at the base of the baobab, its rough bark a stark contrast to the flimsy cardboard. "Right," he muttered, more to himself than to the infants. "This is it." He hesitated, his hand hovering over the edge of the box. He imagined their tiny faces, the way they sometimes looked at him with an unsettlingly knowing gaze. He quickly squashed the thought. Knowing gazies didn't pay school fees. He pulled back his hand as if burned. Backing away slowly, Ebenezer climbed back into the Land Rover. He started the engine, the roar shattering the stillness of the savannah. He didn't look back. As he sped away, the headlights briefly illuminated the cardboard box nestled against the ancient tree, then plunged the twins back into darkness. He drove fast, the wind whipping through his thinning hair, trying to outrun the gnawing emptiness that had suddenly taken root in his chest. Lunar's loss. The setting sun painted the savannah in hues of burnt orange and bruised purple. Lunar, a sleek leopardess, moved like liquid shadow through the tall grasses. Her muscles coiled and released with each stride, a symphony of silent power. Hunger gnawed at her belly, a familiar discomfort quickly overshadowed by a far more pressing need, the insatiable demands of her cubs. A whiff of wildebeest drifted on the evening breeze. Lunar lowered her body, her spotted coat blending seamlessly with the fading light. Patience was her greatest weapon. She stalked closer, the scent growing stronger, until she spotted the herd grazing peacefully near a watering hole. Choosing her target, a young, vulnerable calf, she exploded into action. The element of surprise was on her side. A short, frantic chase ended swiftly with a decisive pounce. Dragging her kill back to the den was a laborious task, but Lunar's concern for her cubs fueled her strength. She imagined their insistent mules, their tiny bodies jostling for a place at her belly. The thought quickened her pace. But as she neared the familiar rocky outcrop that housed her den, an unsettling stillness permeated the air. The usual chorus of chirps and rustles from the nocturnal insects was muted, replaced by an oppressive silence. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She pushed her way into the den, her kill thudding heavily to the ground. The den was empty. A low growl rumbled in her chest, a sound laced with confusion and rising panic. She circled the small space, sniffing desperately at the earth, the rocks, the familiar scents that should have been comforting. But the scent of her cubs was gone. Lunar bolted from the den, her eyes scanning the darkening landscape. She called out, a plaintive, mournful cry that echoed across the plains. Only silence answered. The scent trail was cold, disturbed. Heeners. The realization struck her like a physical blow, stealing her breath and leaving her weak. She sank to the ground, her body trembling. The warmth of the blooded wildebeest carcass beside her offered no comfort. The milk heavy in her teats ached, a constant, physical reminder of her loss. The savannah, once a haven, now felt vast and empty, a stark reflection of the hollowness within her. Lunar closed her eyes, a single tear tracing a path through the dust on her cheek. The cubs, her precious cubs, were gone. Whimpers in the night. The wind carried the scent of dust and distant rain, but the smell Lunar craved, the musky tang of prey, remained elusive. Her belly gnawed, a hollow echo of the fullness she remembered, the weight of her own cubs pressing against her. She stalked on, a shadow gliding beneath the skeletal branches of the baobab, its swollen trunk a silent sentinel against the darkening sky. The hunt was no longer a matter of survival, it was a desperate attempt to quiet the ghosts that haunted her. A sound, thin and reedy, cut through the evening stillness. It wasn't the rustle of a rodent, nor the hoot of an owl. It was weeping. Lunar froze, her ears swiveling, her body tense. The sound came again, a series of choked whimpers, undeniably emanating from the base of the baobab. Caution, A primal instinct honed by years of survival, warred with a strange pull, an ache that resonated deep within her. She circled the tree, keeping low to the ground, her senses on high alert. What prey could possibly make such a noise? Then she saw it. A crude, rectangular shape nestled amongst the tall grasses, its brown surface ripped and peeling. A cardboard box. An object utterly foreign to the wild expanse of the savannah. The whimpers grew louder as she approached, now laced with a frantic urgency. Luna edged closer, her nostrils twitching, trying to decipher the scent clinging to the box. Not animal, not plant, something manufactured, something human. A low growl rumbled in her chest, a warning to whatever lay within. With a hesitant paw, she nudged the box. It wobbled precariously. The whimpering intensified, resolving into distinct cries, high-pitched and filled with distress. Two distinct voices. Driven by an impulse she couldn't explain, an echo of maternal instinct that refused to be silenced, Luna tore at the cardboard with her claws. The box ripped open, revealing two tiny faces, pale and tear-streaked, staring up at her with wide, frightened eyes. Their small mouths opened and closed in silent screams. They were hairless, helpless, abandoned. Luna recoiled, a wave of confusion washing over her. These were not cubs. These were something else entirely. But their cries, their vulnerability, it mirrored her own loss, her own pain. The whimpers in the night had found their mark. A leopard's heart. The wind, sharp as splintered ice against Luna's flank, carried an unfamiliar, frail odor, a strange overlay to the dust and parched grasses. An insistent whisper she couldn't dismiss. Driven by a primal urge, she moved forward, though exhaustion weighed heavy and her belly gnawed, not just for meat, but with a deeper, hollow ache, the phantom weight of cubs erased by fever. The scent ended in a clearing, where a cardboard box sat marooned amidst the thorny scrub. Cardboard, an alien construct, yet the source of the intriguing smell. Circling it cautiously, a guttural growl rumbled in her chest. Then, a thin, piping whimper. She nudged the box with her snout. The cardboard yielded. Two minuscule faces, pale and creased, met her gaze. Human infants. Abandoned. Shivering violently. Instinct clashed with bewilderment. Not her kind. So fragile, so utterly dependent. Her first impulse was flight, to outrun a grief threatening to drown her anew. But another whimper, and a tiny hand, trembling, reached out. Luna lowered her head, her tongue a tentative caress. The air confirmed it. Milk, utter helplessness, vulnerability. A ferocious protectiveness surged, eclipsing the desolate emptiness. She couldn't abandon them. Gently, she clamped her powerful jaws onto a corner of the box. Awkward, unwieldy, yet she managed to lift it. Every muscle shrieked, but she pressed on, a slow, deliberate trek back to her den, a space hollowed beneath the roots of a venerable baobab, still haunted by the ghost scent of her lost litter. Inside, she deposited her burden with a muffled thud. The infants wailed, their small bodies trembling like aspen leaves. Luna nudged the box open wider with her nose. Licking each in turn, her rough tongue displayed surprising gentleness, cleansing away grime and the lingering traces of their strange, unknown origin. Their skin felt clammy, utterly unlike the comforting warmth of fur. She settled beside them, her body a kill against the encroaching chill, offering a warmth once given to her own. Gradually, the wail softened, replaced by the gentle rhythm of slumber. Luna closed her eyes, the weight of the infants a solid comfort against her flank. The hunger remained, but now tempered by a fierce, unwavering resolve. She would shield them. She would be their mother. Growing up wild. Time blurred into a tapestry woven with the gold of sunrise and the indigo of twilight. Lily and Daisy, no longer infants, were now sturdy toddlers, their giggles echoing through the acacia trees. Lunar, her amber eyes softened by an affection she never knew she possessed, watched them with fierce protectiveness. She was their mother, and the savannah was their home. Mornings began with Lunar nudging them awake with her large head, the rough rasp of her tongue a familiar comfort. Then came the hunt, not for survival, but for practice. Lunar would stalk a plump guinea fowl, her powerful muscles coiling and releasing in a blare of tawny fur. The girls, mimicking her, would crawl and scramble, their small hands gripping the earth, their eyes wide with fascination. They never quite caught anything, but the thrill of the chase was enough. One day, Lunar led them to a towering fig tree, its branches laden with sweet, ripe fruit. She scaled the trunk with ease, her claws finding purchase in the rough bark. Below, Lily and Daisy craned their necks, their eyes fixed on Lunar. With a soft grunt, she tossed down a figure. Daisy caught it, her face lighting up as she tasted the sugary flesh. Lily, ever the bolder one, immediately began attempting to climb, her tiny fingers scrabbling against the bark. Lunar, patient and watchful, guided them. She showed them where to place their feet, how to grip the branches, the importance of balance. Slowly, painstakingly, they learned to climb, their initial fear giving way to exhilaration. Soon, they were scampering up the tree like little monkeys, their laughter mingling with the calls of the birds. The world looked different from up there, vast and green, stretching out to the horizon. Finding water became another lesson. Lunar led them to a hidden spring, its water cool and clear. She showed them how to lap it up, their tongues mimicking hers. Sometimes, she would catch a small gazelle, not to eat, but to teach them how to butcher it, using sharp stones to cut through the tough hide. The raw meat tasted gamey, but they ate it nonetheless, knowing it was a gift from their mother. Nights were spent curled up beside Lunar in their den, the warmth of her body a shield against the chill of the savannah. They would listen to the sounds of the night, the rustling of leaves, the distant roar of a lion, the mournful cry of a hyena. Lunar would hum, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through their bones, a lullaby of the wild. The girls were growing up wild, untamed, and fiercely loved. They were children of the savannah, raised by a lioness, their hearts beating in rhythm with the pulse of the African plains. The doctor's discovery. Dr. Livingston cursed under his breath, swatting at another persistent fly. The shimmering heat had distorted the familiar landmarks, turning the acacia trees into ghostly mirages. He'd been following the tracks of a wounded wildebeest, hoping to ease its suffering, but now he was hopelessly lost. The sun beat down with relentless fury, baking the ochre earth. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket, wiping the sweat from his brow, the linen already damp. He'd been a fool to venture out so far alone. He pressed on, driven by a thirst that clawed at his throat. Rounding a cluster of baobab trees, he stumbled upon a small ravine, partially hidden by thick brush. Hope flickered within him. Water. But as he approached, he heard a low growl, a sound that vibrated through the very ground beneath his feet. He froze, his heart hammering against his ribs. Cautiously, he peered over the edge of the ravine. It wasn't water he found. It was a den, a shallow cave carved into the earth. And inside, a leopard. A magnificent creature, its coat the color of sun-baked sand, lay stretched out, its eyes gleaming with an unsettling intelligence. But it wasn't just the leopard that held him captive. Two small girls, no older than 5, were nestled against her, their faces smeared with dirt, their hair tangled and wild. They giggled, reaching out to stroke the leopard's sleek fur. The leopard, in turn, nudged them gently with her head, a low purr rumbling in her chest. Livingston blinked, convinced he was hallucinating from the heat. Children? Here. With a leopard? It defied all logic, all reason. He had delivered hundreds of babies in his long career, seen the fragility of life firsthand, and the bond between parent and child. This was something else entirely. He watched, mesmerized, as one of the girls offered the leopard a piece of fruit, a mango, judging by the vibrant orange hue. The leopard accepted it delicately, its powerful jaws surprisingly gentle. The scene unfolded before him like a dream, a tableau of primal innocence and impossible harmony. He felt a lump form in his throat, a mixture of awe and profound confusion. What had happened here? How could this be? He knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his bones, that he had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary, something that would change his understanding of the world forever. He knew he had to understand. A bridge between worlds. Livingston's approach was slow, hands raised in supplication rather than surrender. Dust mingled with a sharp, almost medicinal scent clung to him, prickling Lily's nostrils. Wordlessly, he extended a calloused hand, palm upturned toward Lunar. She remained a study in amber and raw power, a guttural rumble emanating from deep within, but the girls, their youthful curiosity trumping apprehension, edged forward. From his weathered hand, he produced a small, exquisitely carved wooden sunbird, its wings caught in an eternal moment of flight. He presented it to Daisy, whose eyes widened in surprise. A swift glance at Lunar secured a barely perceptible nod. Daisy accepted the offering, her fingertips grazing Livingston's palm. The simple exchange seemed to thaw the tension. He knelt, maintaining a respectful berth. "I knew your father," he began, his voice like gravel. "Ebenezer Bigglesworth. He was a man of contradictions." Lunar's ears perked up. Complicated was a gross understatement, Lily thought, recalling fleeting impressions of a severe, impatient face. Livingston continued, his gaze fixed on the sisters. Driven by ambition, by the lure of riches, he faltered. He made grievous errors in judgment. He rationalized his actions, convinced he was acting in your best interest. The weight of his unspoken implications filled the space between them. He was certain you couldn't thrive in London. He genuinely believed he was offering you a chance at survival here. Lily scoffed. "Survival in a makeshift shelter?" "He tasked me with finding you," Livingston confessed, his voice hushed. "To in a way, to atone. To extend to you an alternative path." Later, as twilight deepened, Lily and Daisy huddled together, their voices low. Lunar stood sentinel, a silent guardian. "London," a Daisy whispered, tracing the delicate filigree of the sunbird's wings. "Just imagine. Proper beds. Shops overflowing with sweets. Perhaps, or a real education." Lily worried her lip. "But Lunar, and the pride. We can't simply abandon them." The savannah was etched into their souls now, the tangy fragrance of acacia, the lion's earth-shaking roars, more familiar than any cityscape. "We could visit," a Daisy ventured, her voice tentative. "We could learn about his world and then return. Act as a bridge between two realities." The notion resonated. A bridge. They could embrace both sides of their heritage, the untamed spirit and the promise of civilization. The decision lingered, fragile as a newly hatched bird, but for the first time, Lily felt a nascent sense of agency, the possibility of charting their own course. A change of heart. Dust devils danced around Lily and Daisy's ankles as they guided Lunar toward the village, hand in hand. A charged stillness permeated the air, an almost tangible force that prickled the skin. From behind drawn drapes, villagers watched, their expressions a tightrope walk between dread and morbid fascination. Regal and untroubled, the leopard's golden gaze remained fixed on her destination. From his mansion's lofty perch, Mr. Bigglesworth observed the procession. The sunset painted grotesque caricatures of his estate across the land, reflections of the turmoil within. A cold fist clenched his heart. The rumors had filtered in, whispers of a wildcat and 2 untamed girls returned. He'd dismissed them as peasant fables, until now. His daughters. Weathered by the wilderness, yet undeniably his flesh and blood. And flanking them, a creature ripped from legend, its very presence radiating power. Lunar halted at the edge of the pristine lawn, her stare unwavering. A guttural rumble resonated from her chest, vibrating through the very panes of glass in the house. Not a threat, but a gauntlet thrown, a demand for reckoning. He descended the sweeping staircase, his footfalls echoing in the vast hall. The polished banister felt icy beneath his trembling grasp. Emerging into the evening, he inhaled the heavy scent of jasmine mingled with the scent of impending upheaval. "Lily? Daisy?" he rasped, his voice rusty with disuse and choked emotion. The girls remained impassive. Daisy stepped forward, her eyes, mirrors of his own, sharp and unyielding. "We have witnessed your life, father," as she declared, her voice clear and ringing. "We have seen the hardship endured by others. Lunar has revealed the imbalance that festers here." Bigglesworth's gaze swept from his daughters to the huddled figures in the distance. He saw not admiration, not envy, but raw fear and bottomless want. He recognized the reflection of his own barren soul in their gaunt faces. The weight of his misdeeds, years of accumulated avarice, threatened to buckle him. He collapsed to his knees, the manicured grass offering no solace. I don't know how to fix this," he confessed, the words fractured and unfamiliar. Lunar closed the distance, her massive form looming. She nudged his shoulder with her broad head, a gesture of either forgiveness or simply acknowledgement of his despair. An idea flickered to life within him, a fragile spark in the encroaching darkness. The wealth, the estate, it's being squandered. I can change that. I will change that. He rose, his legs unsteady but his determination hardening. He addressed the villagers, his voice amplified by the sudden, profound silence that had fallen. Tomorrow marks a new beginning. The land will be shared, the riches redistributed. We will build a school, a sanctuary, or a true community. A wave of surprised exhalations swept through the crowd. Doubt and disbelief wrestled with a nascent spark of hope. Bigglesworth knew the path ahead would be arduous. He had a vast debt to repay. But as he looked upon his daughters, their faces bathed in the moon's gentle radiance, he realized he'd stumbled upon his redemption. And for the first time in years, a fragile peace settled within him.